Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sketchbook Saturday. Let's go through the sketches that I've done. As many of you know, I started this as a way to soothe myself because so many children in the news were being harmed by either their parents or strangers or, people that they trusted. And it was really getting to me, so I decided to start the sketchbook, and this is one of my own sketchbooks. I have these in my shop. I'll link it below. Ooh, it's sturdy on the back. It has my logo on the back. It's perfect for sketching just with pencil. I have different styles of artwork on the front you can choose from. But here are the sketches that I've done so far. I'm going to show those to you first before we get started. I love this little dude. I just love the look on his face. Pretty little girl. Now, none of these are actual victims to my knowledge. These are just drawings that I've done. These aren't any of the children that actually were harmed. It's just my way of sort of working through and processing all the feelings that I have about what is happening to some of our children. And art has always been a way for me to cope with things that were a little bit more than I could emotionally handle. It gives me a safe space that I can sort of kind of resort to or revert to, and it's my thing to keep myself sane pretty much. I never did drugs or alcohol or anything, so really art has been my way of coping. It's been my way of sort of soothing myself, and it's really been a good tool for me and a positive tool. So now I have this little girl. I've already pre-sketched her, and we are going to get started. I've got fingerprints on here where I have touched her. I'm just going to do it with a regular pencil today, my blending stump, and a kneaded eraser. That's all I'm going to use today. So let's get started. Now this little girl, I'm pretty sure she's from South Asia, as in India. She looks South Asian, at least that's what I'm going for. And of course, I always want to do the eyes anytime I'm painting or drawing a living creature like a human, an animal, a bird. I like to do their eyes first because as I do the rest of their features, I want to be able to look them in the eye as I am trying to render them, trying to get them to look, sort of realistic, unless I'm going for something different. But I always like to paint the eyes. I like to have that, I feel like, connection with my actual artwork. Yes, I know it's crazy, but I'm the good kind of crazy, so just, deal with it. So I'll do the eyes first, and this little girl has some beautiful brown eyes. They are deep and rich. They have some gold tones in them. She has beautiful, thick black eyelashes. And I would love to know what she's thinking. Now, I've got the pupil of her eye in first. I'm doing that really dark. You see, I'm just using my regular school pencil. And I got a little bit too much in there, so I just take my kneaded eraser and get that out. But I'm just using this one. It doesn't get as dark as some of the professional, quality drawing pencils do. This is another view of it. She has several highlights. The lighting was kind of funny on my camera that I had overhead, so it looks silvery, that's it, because graphite is a reflective medium, so you can't really see the darkness from this top, but once you go to this, when I go to the side view, you can see how dark some of those areas are. But this little girl, she just has her chin in her hands, and she is either pissed off about something, or she's thinking about something, or she's sad. I cannot make my mind up, but she is definitely got some stuff going on in her little brain. She reminds me when I was in art class in middle school, that people call it middle school now. I called it junior high because, I'm old. So I called it junior high. But when I was in my junior high art class, I had twins from India, but they were boys. But for some reason, this little girl reminds me of them. Even though they were boys, they were incredibly shy. Their parents asked the school, could they be together in all of their classes because they were so incredibly shy. And I'm not sure if they felt comfortable with their English skills, which I thought were fine. I didn't see any problems with them. They were really good students, but they were shy. And I think that maybe some of their custom or religion, they weren't supposed to interact with females. I'm not sure about that. I just noticed that they would not interact with females. But I watched them from afar because they just fascinated me. And they were really good artists. It was Raji and Raju. And I will never forget them just because they were so cute. They were so cute, but they were so quiet. They never peeped a word to anybody but each other, or unless, the teacher talked to them or whatever. But like the other students, they stayed to themselves. They were just like self-contained two little fellas. And I don't know, they just fascinated me. Probably because in middle school, that's when I stopped being shy, because I was really shy in elementary school. I mean, teachers would write notes home, but I just didn't want anybody looking at me in elementary school. I didn't want nobody looking at me. I didn't want anybody talking to me. I wanted to just disappear into the nothingness. But then in middle school, some things changed in my home life, which, I brought about the change, but it made me more confident, and it gave me more, more joy, I guess, because I felt like I was finally escaping a situation. So I did become more outgoing in middle school. And so these two just cute little shy boys just fascinated me. And so she reminds me of them. She kind of looks like them, although she is a female. She could be their sister. Maybe that's the inspiration, because I've always thought about those two boys and wondered how they grew up. And did they finally get comfortable in America? Because they were new to America. Did they finally get comfortable? Did they go back to India? I don't know what happened to them, but yeah, they were really something special in my eyes, just because they were very kind. Even though they didn't interact with females, they were very kind people, and all of their interactions were really sweet when they did have interactions with other people. But they did try to stay to themselves as much as possible. And she kind of reminds me of them, kind of contemplative. I don't know, maybe she's mad. So anyway, I've gotten her eyes. She has that beautiful dark ring on the outer part of her iris. Her browns in her eyes are multiple shades. She even has gold flecks in there. That's really hard to obviously show with, just with a black and white drawing or a pencil drawing. So, yeah, she is really special to me, just because of that memory of Raju and his brother, his twin brother. So now I'm going to work on the nose. I've got those nostrils in. I like to go for the darkest areas first when I'm drawing. As you can see, I went straight for her pupils and then her nostrils. And then I'm just going to do that shadow under her nose, and then the little sort of dent that's underneath your nose, over your lips, where the Cupid bow forms at your lips. You have sort of a little dent there, so I'm just sort of shading that in, taking my trusty blender, getting that blended out. And I really love my little stump here, my little blending stump. It really makes that look like skin to me. It smooths it out. You don't see all those pencil marks. So I really recommend getting a blending stump or something to blend with when you're doing portraits, or when you're just, doing a smooth type surface. Now I am just trying to pick up, sometimes I get a little bit too much graphite, and I'm just working on this shadow under her nose. and where her nostril connects to her nose is more shadow. So I wanted to portray that, but I didn't want to totally lose that little edge of the nostril. So that's why I went back in there with the kneaded eraser. See, I just love this. It has two good ends. You can use either end to blend with this stump. It's just a good tool, and you can get these smaller if this one is like too large for your hand, or if the tip is not, small enough or sharp enough. You can get smaller blending stumps. I probably have some around here. I just don't know where they're at. So now I am just layering it on the graphite. Again, though, this is never going to get as dark as, like, say, a 6B drawing pencil would. This is just an HB number 2, and it's sort of right in the middle. It's not real light, it's not real dark, so you really have to work hard to get the darkness that you want. You have to layer it, and you're still not going to get as dark as one of those professional drawing pencils, which is fine by me. I'm not doing these to sell. I'm doing these for my own mental health. It is a way for me to just sort of relax my brain. When I draw, I go into this zone, and it's like there's nothing else in the whole world except for me, my pencil, my paper, and whatever it is that I'm drawing, and of course my other tools. But it's like I get so hyper focused. There's nothing else. I almost disappear. I feel like my brain goes into this mode where this is all I'm looking at. This is all I'm thinking about. And it really gives my brain a chance to relax and sort of let go of all of that negativity that can build up throughout the day, just from listening to news. Sometimes social media can get you. So it really has a good health benefit for your brain, for your psychological being as well. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm telling you what my experiences are. So, just take it with a grain of salt. This is my experience. I'm not a professional mental health person. I'm just telling you how it benefits me. And it might benefit you in the same way. I don't know, but I always encourage creating something, creating art, doing woodwork, sculpture, creating a garden, anything where you get focused on it, and all the other stuff of the day, all the other negativity just falls away. So now I'm just sort of getting in some of her midtones across her face, trying to get those shadows in. Her eyes, I want you to take a look at her eyes and see that her eyes are not all one flat tone. There is some really darks in there. There's some midtones, and then I have her highlights. And even her highlights are not all the white of the paper. Some of them I've smudged a little bit so they're more of a paler gray and look more like a reflection. Now you can see better from this side view because the lighting is better for that camera, for the side view camera, and you can really see the details and the lightness and darkness of the graphite there. I'm going to have to work on that because the above view does not show you the detail that I've put into these drawings because of the reflective quality. So I think I'm going to work on that this week so that next week we will have a little bit better overview of what the actual drawing looks like. But now I'm working on her lips. I'm paying close attention to the shape. I'm also noticing that her top lip has like a little bit of a light area right in the center of her Cupid's bow. And it sort of almost kind of comes over her bottom lip into like a little point. It's really cute to me the way that her little lip does that. So I wanted to make sure that I get that in there. She also has a little dimple in her chin, so I've put a little shadow there for the dimple. And her little hands are sort of pushing her chin up and shortening her chin, so it looks a little shorter than it would if she didn't have her hands up there. But that's all perspective, and that's all how things work together. You need to pay attention to those things. So see how short her little chin looks when you look at it dead on. Of course her chin is longer than that, but the fact that she has her hands up around her face and kind of pushing it up, then her chin is going to look shorter. She also has a pale line around that bottom lip, so I want to make sure that I preserve that. She has some texture in that bottom lip, some little plump lines. there's some little lines, but her lip is actually pretty plump, so those little lines make it look even plumper in between. So I'm trying to get that effect as best as I can with my pencil. She also has cute little earrings in. We're just going to kind of draw those in. And this side of her face has a nice deep shadow. And I'm just kind of drawing in line work for her earrings. I'm not going to get too detailed on it. I don't care about her earrings. It's part of the picture, but I want the main focus to be on her face, particularly her eyes. That's why I put so much detail in her eyes to try to draw the focus to those beautiful brown eyes of her. I love brown eyes. I married my husband because he has brown eyes, thinking, oh, I'm going to have brown-eyed children. I have blue eyes. But I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have brown-eyed children. No, that did not work out. Both of my children have blue eyes, just like their mama. So I was a little disappointed with that, and so much for brown being the dominant gene. But of course, his mom has blue eyes, so I guess my blue-eyed genes and her blue-eyed genes just teamed up on his brown-eyed genes, and I got blue-eyed kids. Genetics is something else, I'm going to tell you. And that's another thing. I had my DNA done by 23andMe, and I also have South Asian DNA, which is really funny to me because I'm such a pale person. I mean, I don't know. It's just wild to me. And I have other things. I have, mostly Irish. I'm 65% Irish. Everything else is like French, German, African from the sub-Saharan area, South Asian from India, specifically Bangladesh area. So it's really, you can never tell by a person what their actual genetics are. So now I'm working on her hair. What I did was I did a nice base of as dark as not really as dark as I could get it, but a nice dark base. And I just turned my pencil on the side and just went to town. I left some areas without any pencil on them. That's going to offer or become my highlights to a certain degree. And now I'm just taking the very tip of my pencil and I'm pressing down on there and just doing straight lines to indicate the strands of hair. And I'm sort of clumping them in clumps, the way that it looks, how kids' hair kind of hangs down and it clumps like that. So I'm trying to do it in like separate clumps, but also let it go sort of blend together at the top. I'm doing lighter lines where that pencil is light for the highlights. I'm doing much lighter lines there, and I'm really trying to focus a lot more depth right across the front of her bangs closest to her skin, because that's where I see the darkest area. It's where those bangs are sort of curving toward her forehead, so of course they're curving away from the light, so the actual highlight is right above the edge of those bangs. And she's just really a pretty little girl. I just love her expression. I don't know if maybe her mama told her she couldn't go play with her friends. I don't know if she lost her puppy. Just that face. Oh, that face is perfect. It's just so much disappointment on that face. That's what I think she lost her puppy. That's what the story we're going to tell about this little girl. She lost her little puppy, and she's sad about it. But don't worry, she's going to find him. I just know it. In my story, she's going to find the puppy. Everything's going to be happy. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So now I'm just trying to work around in some of these areas to get these shadows right. I also want to blend some of those marks that I've made for my pencil. I don't want it to be scratchy looking. I want that skin to look smooth. Even though you can see, like even in the shadows, there's some variation in the tone. There's some little dark spots and some little light spots. I kind of like that. It almost mimics the way that natural skin looks. So I'm going with it. I'm staying with that. I'm just going to go right on with it. And now I'm coming up, blending into her hair. I don't want to blend those marks out. On her face, I want it to look smooth. On her hair, I want those strands. I want it to look like strands of hair. So I don't want to blend those pencil marks out, but I do want to soften them and make them flow together just a little bit more. And it just gives it a little extra quality to look like actual human hair. So now I'm coming back with my kneaded eraser. That is your friend. I love my kneaded erasers. And I just lifted out some of that graphite to put that highlight across the top part of her head. Of course, like I said, she's got her head down in her hand. She's sort of tilting her head forward. So the hair right across her forehead that is closest to her forehead is going to be darker because it's curving under and the light's not wrapping around to get it because it is sort of folded under from the light. Now as you go further towards the top of her head, of course the hair is going to get lighter. There's going to be more highlights because it's closer to the light source. So we're going to work on her hands. I did a nice dark shadow between her hand and her face just to sort of differentiate it. And of course, right where her hand touches her face, that's where it is going to be the darkest shadow. You want to think about things like that when you're drawing. You want to really look at your subject matter, whatever, if you're using a reference photo or if you're drawing from real life, really look at that, really soak it in of what you're seeing, how darks and lights are playing along in the different areas of the face or the body or whatever you're drawing. And so she really does have a nice deep dark shadow where her hand meets her face, and then her fingers are sort of curled under, and the light is sort of hitting them like almost straight. I don't know how to explain it, like straight from the top. So the light is actually flowing down her fingers, where on her forehead the light was going sort of in a round fashion around, like a little halo around her head. But the light from where her hand is positioned is almost going straight down her fingers. So she has a shadow to one side, and then she has the highlight going down the other side of her fingers. And of course you want that darker shadow between each finger, so it sort of gives those fingers some separation. Her hand is not just a little blob. And then we're going to work on her other hand, thinking of the same thing. Now, this other hand looks a little odd. And the reason it looks a little odd is because see how it's folded under her chin? Well, that's her pinky and her ring finger together. But at the position that it is under her chin, it makes it look like her pinky is really a fat pinky, but it's not. That is 2 fingers that she has in that area. You can see the outer edge of the pinky. The ring finger is sort of, tucked in there. It's just an odd way that she has her hand. I'm just going to try to portray it as best I can. Her knuckles are sticking out a little bit from the top part of her hand, the back part of her hand. So we want to leave those highlights. And her first finger is on the very edge of her face, then the second finger, and then right here under her chin, there's 2 fingers there. It's her ring finger and her pinky finger. But since she has like where the 2 meet at the hand, she has that little crease under her chin so you can't see it. So it makes it look like her pinky is just huge, but it's not, trust me. She is a perfect little angel. She's a perfect little girl. There is nothing odd or different about her. It just looks that way, the way that I have drawn it and the way that it's positioned. I'm leaving it. I don't care. I'm just explaining to y'all. So in case you wonder why her pinky looks so fat, it's actually her pinky and her ring finger together, but her chin is covering up where they separate from each other, that little shadow crease. So we've got her pinky, we've got her knuckles, the highlights, we've got the shadow going along her pinky, we're getting those creases where her hand is curled. I'm just trying to show you right there that is another little finger, even though you can't see it. I'm putting it there just so that you can visually separate that pinky and that ring finger. Her clothes, I'm not going to be bothered with those. I'm just going to do thick lines for her clothes. I want all the focus to be on her hands and her face. So all I'm doing is some line work. Now you can do shadows if you like. It's totally up to you. This is just my design decision, my composition decision. Leaving a little highlight on her nose and just a few more little marks for her clothes. And I really like her. I like this little girl. She just reminds me of Raju and Raji so much. She just reminds me of them. I'm going to sign it. I'm going to call it done, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and join me next Saturday for another Sketchbook Saturday. Next Saturday, I may do something a little bit different. I'm not sure, but eventually I want to start working with charcoal as well and see how that goes in this sketchbook. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Shout out to my patrons. Because of you, I can make this happen for everybody, and I appreciate all your support. Happy painting, and I hope you're successful with all your art endeavors.